On April 5th, 2025, a prescribed burn cleared thick brush from a remote plantation in Thomas County, Georgia. What the flames revealed would answer a question that had haunted Tallahassee, Florida, for nearly 2 years. Where is Lorie? The skeletal remains found in the ash belonged to 12-year-old Lorie Paige, a bright, shy girl who loved Roblox and YouTube videos. A girl who could read by age 4. A girl who disappeared without a trace in June 2023. But this isn't a story about a runaway. This is a story about the unthinkable, about how the person sworn to protect Lorie became the one who took her life. Lorie Anelise Paige was born on April 14, 2011, into circumstances that would define her short life. Her father, Andrew Way, was 22. Her mother, Miranda White, just 17. From the beginning, stability was something Lorie would chase, but never catch. Her grandmother, Brooklyn Paige, watched as Lorie developed what she called an unusual self-sufficiency for a child so young. The kind that comes not from confidence, but from necessity. Miranda had wanted to terminate the pregnancy late term. When she couldn't, that resentment seemed to follow Lorie throughout her childhood. Miranda would sleep through entire days, leaving food on low shelves so her toddler could feed herself. There was never really a bond between mother and daughter. Child Protective Services eventually intervened, removing Lorie and placing her with her great-grandfather. But the arrangement proved temporary. Nashville became a revolving door. Miranda moved constantly, chasing work that always seemed just out of reach. Each relocation meant another school, another set of unfamiliar faces, another loss of whatever fragile connections Lorie had managed to build. Records show she ran away at least once after a fight with her mother, though she returned the same day. Neighbors recalled explosive arguments echoing through walls. Through it all, Lorie remained bright but burdened. She carried resentment toward her mother, toward her circumstances, toward the feeling that she'd been abandoned by the people who should have protected her most. By 2022, Miranda, overwhelmed and financially stretched, made a decision that would change everything. She told Lorie she wouldn't be picking her up at summer's end. She signed over full custody to Andrew before the 2022 to 2023 school year. For Lorie, the move to Tallahassee wasn't a fresh start. It was a fracture. Nashville held her friends and routines. Tallahassee was foreign territory. Andrew enrolled her at Griffin Middle School, promising she'd make new friends. But Lorie remained withdrawn, shy, reluctant to engage. Andrew also restricted her contact with Miranda, blocking calls and limiting communication to monitored emails from school computers. For a girl already struggling with abandonment, this deepened her isolation. By the time she began life in Tallahassee, Lorie carried years of neglect, disrupted schooling, and deep uncertainty about where she belonged. At Griffin Middle School, warning signs accumulated immediately. Nathan George, one of her teachers, received a note from Lorie asking if he liked her. Inappropriate behavior, suggesting she was searching for validation in troubling ways. She would break down crying in class without explanation or erupt in sudden anger, throwing objects across the room. These weren't typical teenage moods. They were episodes of genuine psychological distress. School counselor Lisa Britt conducted formal assessments. The results pointed toward depression and profound feelings of inadequacy. Lorie believed she wasn't good enough, that she lacked fundamental worth. But what Lorie told peers revealed even more. She confided that life with her father had become harsh and violent. She said punishment often came in the form of beatings with a belt. One classmate recalled Lorie mentioning that Andrew had approached her at the bus stop carrying a belt. These disclosures added crucial context to the emotional volatility teachers were observing. In May 2023, 1 month before Lorie would disappear, tensions exploded. After a heated fight with Andrew, she ran away. She went to a friend's house, then appeared at school later that day. School had become her safe haven. This should have been a major alarm bell. Combined with documented depression, emotional outbursts, and reports of physical punishment, it should have triggered immediate intervention. But the system didn't respond with adequate urgency. Margaret Summers, a paraprofessional who worked with Lorie's class, later recalled, "She was more into school than any other kid I dealt with. The way she always beelined over to me made me feel important. Now I wonder if I should have realized she had nowhere else to go." By late spring 2023, the red flags were blazing, but the intervention that might have saved Lorie's life never materialized. On the morning of June 3, 2023, Officer Caleb Babb responded to 1229 Continental Court. Andrew Way reported his daughter missing. According to Andrew, he'd left for his night shift around 11 p.m. on June 2nd. When he returned the next morning, Lorie was gone. Her backpack was missing. But Andrew didn't just report facts. He began shaping the narrative immediately. He reminded police that Lorie had run away once before. He mentioned a distressing meeting with her mother. He painted a portrait of a troubled child prone to impulsive decisions. Police initially treated it as a runaway case. The community mobilized quickly. Pastor Rudy Ferguson of New Birth Tabernacle of Praise forwarded Lorie's missing person bulletin to a network of church leaders. Volunteers organized search parties. The FBI became involved, putting up billboards with rewards.
After 14 days, there has to be at least one adult who has seen her or has an idea where she may have gone.
Lorie is considered a missing runaway and was last seen on June 3rd near the 1200 block of Continental Court, which is close to Ocala Road and less than a mile away from Mission San Luis. Rudy Ferguson, pastor for New Birth Tabernacle of Praise in Griffin Heights, doesn't know Lorie personally, but he says in his position it's important to help the community any way he can.
We ought to be her family. We ought to look for her consistently until she's safe and sound. I think it's incumbent upon the churches as well in the neighborhood because that's why we're there. We're in the community not just for spiritual growth, but also to be a voice.
Summers says Lorie has run away before, but she's always been found within a few days.
I'm hoping that if nothing else, that Lorie will come to the school. She knows she's safe there. She knows that people care about her there. And we're in summer school, so she can come there any day, Monday through Thursday.
Pastor Ferguson forwarded Lorie's missing person bulletin to the Frontline Pastors Action Council, which is made up of about 26 pastors.
We're going to keep searching. We're going to keep making phone calls. We're going to keep putting her bulletin out there. We're going to keep doing it until she's safe and sound, until we have some type of results.
Summers says Lorie's teachers and friends are concerned, and they're just hoping she'll come back.
If we can find Lorie, we can hopefully find her a mentor, so next time she faces struggles, she can talk to her mentor and not feel like she has to run away.
And her message for Lorie if she's watching.
Lorie, you're a great student and a great kid, and there's nothing that you haven't done well enough.
Feels like too long. Margaret Summers says the days grow longer knowing that 12-year-old Lorie Paige is still missing after nearly 8 months.
Every kid matters, and if she just disappeared and nobody knew about it, wouldn't that say she doesn't matter? She does matter, and she's going to continue to matter. And here we are 8 months later. We haven't stopped looking. We're not going to stop looking.
Tuesday, about 90 people between Tallahassee Police and Fire Department searched 64 acres of Mission San Luis Park. TPD says Paige was last seen in the general area near Continental Court off Ocala Road.
Our concern grows day by day. We want to be able to bring Lorie home and you reunite her with her family and friends. When you have this amount of time that goes by, our concern always increases, but we've really been concerned since day one.
Alicia Hill with the police department says this is their 5th search since Paige was originally reported missing last summer.
But the reality is there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, so much investigative work. Even with a minimal digital footprint, we still have to comb through evidence online.
And as the search continues, Summers remembers Paige as one of her brightest students.
She was more into school, more so than any other kid that I dealt with. We are supposed to go out of our way to make the kids feel important, but the way she always beelined over to me made me feel important.
Students at Griffin Middle School whispered darker theories, that Lorie had been killed, that her body would be found near the airport. None of these rumors led anywhere. In August 2023, Miranda White posted something cryptic on Facebook beneath a broken heart emoji. "My baby is gone." She deleted it within hours, but investigators noticed. When questioned, Miranda said she hadn't meant to confirm death, just to express the feeling that Lorie was gone. Through summer and into fall, police pursued hundreds of leads across multiple states, but none brought Lorie home, and investigators began noticing troubling inconsistencies centered on the father who'd reported her missing. That Andrew's demeanor struck officers as unusually flat. Even when investigators discussed the possibility Lorie might be dead, his responses seemed inappropriately calm. The desperate urgency typical of worried parents was conspicuously absent. Miranda initially drew suspicion too, refusing to provide DNA 3 times before complying. But phone records placed her in Nashville when Lorie disappeared. She was cleared. Employment records revealed Andrew had called in sick twice before Lorie's disappearance, May 27th and 29th. His explanations were vague and shifted when pressed for details. Then investigators uncovered something damning. Cell tower data placed Andrew in Jacksonville around the time Lorie went missing, a 2.5-hour drive from Tallahassee. When confronted, Andrew claimed he'd driven a friend named Tim Brown to the airport. But investigators couldn't find anyone by that name connected to Andrew. His own brother had never heard of Tim Brown. The story didn't hold up. Detectives asked Lorie Paige to call Andrew while they listened. She tried to talk about Lorie, about decorating her room for her birthday, about how everyone missed her. But Andrew kept deflecting, talking about his own frustrations and anger at being treated as a suspect. To investigators, his priorities seemed profoundly wrong. By early 2024, the case had shifted from missing child to probable homicide. On February 2nd, 2024, detectives executed a search warrant at Andrew's residence, seizing his phone, electronic devices, and his Dodge Charger. What forensic analysis revealed was devastating. Andrew's phone contained searches conducted around Lorie's disappearance. Bodies of water, Alabama, Georgia. Apalachicola National Forest dead body. Where do police look for missing kids? These weren't the searches of a worried father. They were the searches of someone planning a cover-up. Andrew's Dodge Charger contained a pistol, ammunition, and a bottle of cleaning spray specifically designed to remove blood. The factory floor mats were missing. Samples from the carpet were sent to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Crime Lab. The results were conclusive. Lorie Paige's blood was embedded in the fibers. This was no longer circumstantial. This was physical proof that something violent had happened to Lorie inside her father's car. Andrew had factory reset old phones and laptops, but forensic experts recovered fragments showing additional searches about remote wooded areas in Alabama and Georgia, consistent with scouting disposal locations. Credit card records showed Andrew had purchased Plan B emergency contraception before Lorie disappeared. This fueled suspicions that his abuse had been sexual in nature. Medical records revealed Andrew had sought treatment for a sexually transmitted disease around the same time, but refused to allow a complete examination, apparently to avoid creating evidence. Investigators believed Andrew had been sexually abusing his daughter. When he feared this would be exposed, possibly because of pregnancy concerns, he killed her on June 1st, 2023. On June 2nd, they believed he drove her body to Georgia. On June 3rd, he called 911 and began performing as the concerned father. But despite overwhelming evidence, they still hadn't found Lorie. Cell tower data placed Andrew's phone in Thomas County, Georgia on June 2nd, a remote area with no legitimate reason for him to be there. Investigators focused on a brush-covered plantation property. In early 2024, search teams deployed cadaver dogs and forensic experts. They combed through the area in multiple sweeps, but the vegetation was too dense. Despite exhaustive work, they found nothing. More than a year later, property managers conducted a prescribed burn, a routine fire to clear overgrown brush. The flames stripped the landscape bare, revealing what had been hidden. When detectives returned days later, they found skeletal remains scattered in the ash and soil. The remains were sent to FDLE. On April 11th, 2025, just 4 days later, results came back. The DNA matched. The bones belonged to 12-year-old Lorie Anelise Paige.
Stunning announcement just 2 hours ago. Lorie Paige's remains were found in Thomas County. She was last seen in 2023, and in the following days, weeks, and months, flyers and posters went up. The FBI raising the stakes on the search, putting up billboards and offering a reward. People all across the area asking the same question.
After 22 months of searching, the question was finally answered. Lorie had not run away. Her body had been abandoned in a Georgia field until fire cleared the brush away. On April 11, 2025, Police Chief Lawrence Revelle stood before the community.
We would never give up. I told you 2 years ago we would find Lorie and we would bring her home. I told you 2 years ago that we would find who did this and we would arrest them and bring them to justice. And today I stand before you to tell you we have done just that. So we have recovered Lorie's remains and we have arrested the person responsible for this crime. So today with me is this group of amazing people that have been working with us nonstop.
Andrew Way was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The evidence was overwhelming. Blood in his car, internet searches about disposal, cell records placing him at the site, purchases suggesting sexual abuse, and a pattern of lies. Less than 24 hours later, Andrew appeared before Judge Anthony Miller. Bond was denied. He would remain in custody while awaiting trial. State Attorney Jack Campbell was direct about the prosecution's theory. We have overwhelming evidence. We believe this crime was motivated by the defendant's desire to conceal ongoing sexual abuse. We believe he feared exposure and killed his daughter to keep his secret. The case fractured Andrew's family. His brother Antoine launched a GoFundMe campaign asserting Andrew's innocence, claiming police had targeted him unfairly. The campaign sought over $100,000 for legal defense before GoFundMe removed it, due to policies against funding violent crime defenses. Just over 2 months after his arrest, Andrew Way collapsed in his cell at Leon County Detention Facility. Despite emergency efforts by medical staff, he was pronounced dead on June 20th, 2025. The cause? A pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that had traveled to his lungs. Officials ruled it a natural death. Andrew's death meant the criminal process would never reach conclusion. There would be no trial, no jury verdict, no sentencing. Because he was never convicted, the court could not formally declare him guilty. For investigators who'd worked tirelessly for 2 years, it brought frustration. For prosecutors preparing what they believed was an ironclad case, it felt like being denied the opportunity to speak for Lorie in court. For Lorie's family and community, it felt like justice had been denied. There would be no moment where a jury pronounced Andrew guilty, no victim impact statements delivered directly to him. The file was closed, but the sense of resolution was incomplete. The community organized vigils to honor Lorie's memory. The largest gathering took place at Cascades Park. Hundreds attended with candles and bottles of bubbles. As Michael Jackson's Human Nature played softly, participants lit candles and blew bubbles into the evening air, iridescent spheres rising briefly before disappearing. A visual metaphor for a life too brief, too fragile, but beautiful nonetheless. Margaret Summers spoke through tears. Lorie wanted so badly to feel important, to feel valued. And she was important. She mattered. She still matters. Pastor Ferguson challenged the community. The way Lorie was found ought to be in our memories for the rest of our lives. Not so we dwell on horror, but so we remember there are children right now who need our help. Children being hurt in their own homes. Children trying to tell us something is wrong. Griffin Middle School planted a tree in Lorie's honor with a plaque reading, Lorie Anelise Paige, April 14th, 2011 to June 1st, 2023. Bright, kind, gone too soon. You are not forgotten, ****. Brooklyn Paige established the Lorie Paige Memorial Scholarship Fund to support children in foster care or unstable situations, providing resources for school supplies, activities, and counseling. The school implemented new protocols to ensure concerns about student safety would be shared more systematically. Tallahassee police updated procedures for missing children cases. Leon County schools added training for staff on recognizing abuse signs. These changes wouldn't bring Lorie back, but they represented commitment to learning from her case. Lorie's case closed without trial, leaving certain questions permanently unanswered. The community would never know precise details of her final hours, exactly how Andrew killed her, whether she understood what was happening. The blood evidence suggested violence, but the specific mechanism of death remained uncertain. They wouldn't know definitively whether she'd been pregnant, whether Andrew's Plan B purchase was preventative or reactive. These questions would haunt family members forever. What remained clear was Andrew's calculated deception. He had researched disposal locations online, made unexplained trips to scout sites, purchased emergency contraception, cleaned his vehicle with blood removal products, removed and disposed of floor mats, factory reset devices to erase his digital trail, lied repeatedly to police, maintained a performance as concerned father for 2 years. This level of planning suggested someone who believed he could get away with murder. Only investigative persistence and a chance-prescribed burn revealed the truth. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, approximately 1,750 children die from abuse or neglect annually in the United States. The majority are killed by family members, the very people who should protect them. Lorie's case highlighted systemic challenges. Fragmented information across multiple observers. The balance between parental rights and child safety. Resource limitations in child protective services. Children's reluctance to disclose abuse from parents. The difficulty of distinguishing normal behavior from cries for help. Lorie's story doesn't provide simple solutions, but it underscores the stakes. The consequence of system failures isn't abstract. It's a 12-year-old girl buried in a Georgia field. Lorie Anelise Paige was bright, shy, and self-sufficient beyond her years. She could read by age 4. She loved Roblox and YouTube. She tried desperately to find stability in a world that kept shifting beneath her feet. She deserved safety. She deserved a childhood free from fear. She deserved parents who would protect her and allow her to grow into whoever she might have become. Instead, she was failed by the adults responsible for her care and by systems designed to protect vulnerable children. Her story reminds us that monsters don't always come from outside our homes. Sometimes they live within them. It reminds us that we must believe children when they try to tell us something is wrong. It reminds us to see the warning signs and act decisively when we suspect a child is in danger. We can't give Lorie the life she deserved, but we can honor her memory by doing better for vulnerable children who are still here, still hoping someone will notice their pain, still waiting for someone to keep them safe.